It's Wednesday, December 7th, 2011. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight, we talk about a bunch of anime.
Let's do this.
Tonight, we have 3 mini reviews: Drops of God, Welcome to the Space Show, and Children Who Chase Lost Voices from Deep Below. I'm thinking about not paying for Xbox Live Gold anymore.
Really?
Because I realized I don't use it for anything except, I guess, leaderboards and the Netflix thing, and they basically fucked the Netflix thing.
I haven't checked out the Netflix thing.
I haven't actually checked out the new one, but all the people noted the exact changes they made, and it seems like they just made it worse with no benefit whatsoever. And I already have a computer hooked up to my TV running Boxy.
Well, I've got it for a while, without having to pay
I
again.
also have it for a while, but I see no reason to renew it.
Well, it's like you say that, and then eventually you get a game that has multiplayer, like Street Fighter or something, and you're like, oh, fuck.
Playing Street Fighter online with strangers was never fun. It's really only fun to play it in person.
I played it online with non-strangers.
Do you still do that?
No.
Uh-huh.
But you never know.
When was the last time you used Xbox Live Gold for anything?
I Netflixed something, but
Netflix?
I
Don't you have a computer?
Yeah.
Is it running Windows?
Yeah.
Huh.
I use whichever one is already switched, to reduce switching.
I do have this trouble that
If the computer's currently switched, I'll use that. If the Xbox is currently switched, I'll use that.
you do still need the computer, the actual normal computer with a real web browser hooked up to the TV, because so many online services are going further and further into preventing things like Boxy from actually showing their content. Or like Hulu, there's a Boxy app, but if you watch Hulu through the Boxy app, the commercials are 1 billion decibels and cannot be
Doesn't
muted
that happen on
or made
regular
quieter.
Hulu?
No.
Why? Wait. What do you mean they can't be muted?
So the volume control on the remote is disabled.
Why don't you
In
push
Boxy.
mute on your TV?
Because that's a different remote.
Oh no.
That remote is basically like a vestigial feature of my television.
You know
at this
what?
point.
The mute button on my, I have a separate remote just for controlling my little speaker system.
Yeah.
And the mute button is perhaps the second most used button after the power button.
But think about this. So if you go to the website and just hit play, it just works fine, and you can do whatever you want. But if you use Boxy, they actively remove a feature of Boxy in the misguided attempt to get you to pay attention to the shitty commercial.
Yeah.
The moral is hook up a computer to your TV, because no device that
We've
isn't
said that
a
about
computer.
1 billion times.
Yeah, but bears repeating.
Okay.
Plus, we say it usually on Monday, and this is Wednesday. Wednesday is when the people listening to Wednesday Geek Nights are the ones who tend to watch a lot of stuff on their TV via a computer.
Get a real dedicated real computer connected to your television in your living room. If you want to play games, get a real Windows computer. If you don't care about playing games on it at all, then you can get a Mac Mini if you want.
Yeah, you can.
But a Windows computer's better.
Except for the hardware, by and large.
Yeah, but whatever. It'll be bigger and less quiet.
So, I guess your news is the only real news, so I'm going to start with the GeekBite. We'll do something happy before we do something sad. Wolverine and the X-Men.
Wolverine, oh shit.
Oh shit, it's
Snickety,
Wolverine.
Snickety,
Scott hasn't seen Wolverine and the X-Men. I've watched it 3 times because
The
it's
whole
actually
show?
Yes, it's
How
actually
many episodes is it?
26.
Oh.
It's actually pretty fucking good.
But you've watched 26 episodes 3 times.
I've also watched Madoka 3 times. It's 13 episodes. I've seen Utena, 5 times.
What? I've only seen Utena 1 time.
I've seen really only once.
Well, and change.
And change. You
And
gotta watch
change.
it all the way through again.
Eventually.
Ava 5, Escaflowne only 3,
Yeah, okay.
Bebop 3.
Okay.
Yeah. But Wolverine and the X-Men is actually pretty great. And the sad story of it is that it was made. Steve Blum, a.k.a. the voice of Spike Spiegel, is the voice of Wolverine. And it's a fun reversal in that the plot is basically that the X-Men all split up and separate and quit. So Wolverine, the lone badass, tough and cool, is the one who has to go and gather everyone back together and be the leader, but he doesn't want to be the leader.
Okay.
It's pretty good. Also, Emma Frost is kind of awesome.
Not really a fan.
Really?
No.
So do you know anything about Wolverine and the X-Men? Like where it's set, what it's about?
I know who Emma Frost is. I know who Wolverine is. I know who the X-Men are.
Yeah.
There you go.
Wow. I don't. Maybe I should get the other Scott on to review this because he was the one who showed it to me. We watched it twice at the shore.
You watched 52 episodes in one go?
Yeah, actually.
What the fuck is wrong with you?
Because we got kind of drunk toward the end, didn't remember a lot of it, so we.
How much time is that? You could have been on the beach.
Yeah, you know what? It was on while we were playing games.
I'm gonna calculate this. 52 times 0.5 is 26. Friggin'
They're 23
hours.
minute episodes for one. And two,
26 hours you spent over a day of your life.
and you know what?
Total.
We were doing other stuff simultaneously.
That's 8. How many days were you there?
The greatest. There was like the week and a half, the big trip.
So
that
how
you
many
didn't go to.
days were you there?
I don't know, 6, 7.
If you were there for 7 days, that means you watched 3, 4, 5, 6. You watch like 8 episodes a day on average.
I think we actually skipped the first 10, the second run through, because it wasn't until 10 or so in that everyone was too drunk to remember what was happening.
Okay, that's a little bit better, but still.
But anyway, Wolverine the X-Men is pretty fucking good. And you know why I know it's good? Because it completely failed financially. It didn't make any money at all, and the second season was canceled.
Okay.
Like happens, Hasbro bought the rights to the toys.
So by that logic, Ponies is awful.
So Ponies, while it got a second season and everything, doesn't really, the merchandising isn't even being attempted at this point. Meanwhile, this show, they tried to merchandise it, and then they gave up.
All right.
But I don't know what else I can say. If you're even close to a fan of anything even vaguely related to the X-Men, this is probably the best moving visual representation of the X-Men there has ever been made. I don't like the live-action movies that much. The original cartoon is only great if you never watch it again. And
wait, what do you mean original cartoon?
Well, when I say original, I mean the first one I ever saw, the 90s X-Men.
one. Yeah, there is an X-Men older than that.
You know what? That's in the same category as most of M. Night Shyamalan's movies.
There's also Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, which has some
That's on Netflix now. I almost clicked on that.
It has some episodes with the X-Men, but Iceman is one of Spider-Man's amazing friends. He's in almost pretty much every episode. So, and
Iceman is also in Wolverine and the X-Men.
So it's 1/3 of that is an X-Men cartoon.
The thing is that Wolverine and the
Greater
X-Men
than a third because there are episodes with all the X-Men in
is
it.
animated pretty well. The voice acting's good. Doesn't sound like a crappy. It's actually good voice actors. I mean, Stephen Bloom and all these people. It's a good story, and of course, it's Phoenix Saga because Phoenix Saga seems to be the only thing anyone ever does when they do the X-Men.
Because every other X-Men story is a convoluted mess that no one can understand unless they read every X-Men comic ever.
But they did a good job of taking the kind of plot points from the actual X-Men comic and re-representing them in a way that doesn't make them seem nearly as stupid as they actually were. Like Master Mold is this AI controller for the Sentinels. Master Mold is not just a Sentinel so big the Sentinels come out of its stomach.
No, but that's so much more awesome. See, that disappoints me.
The only reason to really watch this is because the MRD guys have this heads-up display in their helmets, and it's human, mutant. And we decided about halfway through that they should have a third option. Oh shit, it's Wolverine.
Okay.
Scott's blasé about everything. All of you should watch this, and I'll review it on the show with the other better Scott who actually has taste.
Lowbrow people.
This is a good show. I don't know why you're so resistant to it.
Lowbrow.
Scott, you showed me a picture. You linked to Madoka Magica, and you were like, let's watch this show. And I was like, fuck you.
Would you say that the show, not having seen it, is low or highbrow?
What?
What is the elevation of Madoka's brow?
Oh, it's a very high brow.
There you go.
But I'm saying that if you
what
judge
would you
that
say
cover,
is the elevation of Wolverine's brow, having seen it?
It's an upper middle brow.
You don't think it's an upper middle brow?
It's a middle brow.
It's a middle brow?
Yeah, it's middle brow.
Middle brow, huh?
It's okay.
You think so?
Scott, it is better than the average B anime.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. It's better than Initial D. I'm going to say that right now. It is better
What's
than
not
Initial
better
D.
than Initial D? Initial D's brow is in the dirt. Initial D's brow is in the Marianas
It's like the difference
Trench.
between chocolate and shit.
Initial D's brow is in China because it's just...
Anyway, kids, Scott's a hater. Watch Wolverine and the X-Men. It's on Netflix. It's pretty great. You'll enjoy it.
All right. So in anime news, right? I don't know if people know this, but we saw Satoshi Kon once when he was alive, and he had one picture on display of the movie that he was making at the time, which is called The Dream Machine, and it featured a robot or some robot people. And I was like, oh shit, can't wait for that. And then a couple of years later, like last year, right? He died, and the movie was not done. And he said, hey, I did as much work as I could on this movie, finish it, and then whatever. And so Madhouse started to try to finish it, and they put a guy in charge of it, and he was working on it. And then he sort of stopped working on it. And now the website is down. So it's like, no.
Now, the saddest thing is Scott links me, his news, and I'm just going through it, like, preparing for the show.
Not reading.
I didn't read it. I'm just, like, clicking on the links, and I say, oh, Dream Machine. And I'm looking at the screenshot, and I'm like, and I say something to the effect of, man, once this movie comes out, I don't know what I'll do, because that's it. There's no more. And then I see the headline. I'm like, oh.
So the thing is, right, us anime people on the Twitter, we're basically like, hey, basically the reason they're not going through with it is because, his movies were expensive to make because they were pretty much prestige type things, and they didn't make a lot of money, and they can't really afford to make it. And especially if he's not there to push it,
guys,
it's not gonna
kickstart
happen.
that shit.
That's right. It's like we're all like, hey,
I would donate a lot of money to make that just so I can see the movie.
Don't Japanese people know about Kickstarter? It's like this would be the perfect example of someone to actually try to use Kickstarter for something big, right? It's like most people try to use Kickstarter for something relatively small, and they only ask for some thousands. They should try to kickstart this and ask for what do they need? $1 million, $2 million? Right? Ask for the millions on Kickstarter. Give out amazing prizes, like top prize, $1,000. We'll give you a fistful of, I guess they don't have cells, but you know what I'm saying? Just like amazing shit. Give out the big prizes that are big, but don't actually cost them anything.
I guess one question is the only factor we really don't know is how much work is actually done on it already.
People say a third, and someone else was like, hey, well, if you've already done a third of the work and you're not going to finish it, just put the third of the work you've done on YouTube in its raw form. We don't give a shit.
Or just edit it onto a DVD and sell it for like $10 as a like final, whatever.
Yeah, or give that as like one of the Kickstarter. Or just do something. Don't. It's like these people aren't trying. They're just not trying to try. They just don't put any effort into it. They don't give a shit. It's like they just give up and that's it. It's like, come on. There are like 10 billion things you can try to do. At least try. How long does it take to go to Kickstarter and click a few times and type in
There might be
things?
some legal issues involved.
It doesn't matter. You can work it out. It won't take that much, effort. You've already, it's on cost fallacy. You should just sort of give up, but, don't put the good dollars after the bad.
But don't give up if I care about it.
That's right. Also, it would just, it's it.
What? No, that's it?
That's it.
That's it? But anyway, things of the day. So speaking of X-Men, I found this video on Dorkly. X-Men Sentinels can't do anything right. Now, the Sentinels in the new Wolverine and the X-Men, which isn't that new, are, they're pretty scary and they're pretty competent. The Sentinels in the original 90s cartoon were pretty crap, but I didn't realize until I watched this compilation how amazingly Shockwave-esque they are.
They're about the same as Stormtroopers.
They
can't hit anything.
A Stormtrooper never cut its own head off by running full steam into an overhanging I-beam.
They have hit their head on the top of...
that they have.
Well, technically, that was a person in a Stormtrooper costume who was not a trained Stormtrooper.
I think my favorite one of these is when there's like 10 of them and they're standing around looking at a card on the ground. They're like, this object appears to be an ace of spades. And then Gambit's card explodes.
I like how the amount of explosion in his cards varies wildly. And what triggers them exploding, it's like they could be a time bomb, or most of the time when they hit something, they blow up, as long as it's not Gambit that they hit.
Yep, I like how he also has the power of survive being knocked like across the room into a brick wall by a giant robot.
But the Sentinel can't even survive hitting its head on a piece of metal.
I also, Wolverine is a
falls
badass,
off.
And they always show...
These things are like made of the same shit that like friggin', Ghosts and Goblins guy's armor is made of. It's just like, doink, up, they just fall to pieces.
But I note something, it's always bothered me. Wolverine, right? Even the original cartoon and the new one in the comics, it's always like you see him jump up and then a Sentinel's head falls down with him like riding it.
Right.
How the fuck does he pull that off?
he takes his claw and he goes around the neck.
But his claw doesn't get that far into it. It's a really big neck.
He goes around the neck. He gets all, ding,
Scott,
ding, ding,
that
ding,
would be
ding.
like me ringing a tree. It doesn't cut the tree down. I didn't get all the way to the core of the tree.
You don't have to, because now there's just this little tiny bit in the middle.
I think there's
And
a
you
bunch of
push it a little
cables and
bit and
stuff
it
there.
snaps.
And somehow Wolverine has torn all of them.
Well, first of all, Wolverine, he doesn't have Superman's strength, but he's pretty strong. He's not as strong as Spider-Man even, but he's still way stronger than normal people.
Plus, Scott, depending on what
stronger than
second
Captain America.
of animation you're watching, the Sentinels in the 90s X-Men are either 8 feet tall or 80 feet tall.
Well, I always thought it was weird that in the X-Men arcade game they were kind of small, and there was only one boss that was actual Sentinel size. But in fact, all the Sentinels are supposed to be the size of that boss. Anyway,
this video is actually pretty funny.
yeah. So here is some awesome fan arts that are pretty cool. One of them combines Star Wars and Totoro and is the awesomest. Some of them are like Cowboy Bebop.
I like the Kiki one the most.
Some of them that's a good one. I like the Castle in the Sky one the most, actually, because, it's whatever with the robot.
They have that robot at the Ghibli Museum.
I know.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
He's just hanging out on the roof.
He doesn't move around, though.
No, he's just hanging out.
Yeah. No, you got to get the one that moves around.
From where? Where am I going to get the one that moves around?
Lupin's got it. All right. But yeah, cool fan arts here. Like, they're cool enough, and there are enough of them that they are worthy of Thing of the Day.
So, in the meta moment, the book club books are...
The Little Prince by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, and also Wind, Sand, and Stars by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. And read both of them. One of them will take you almost no time at all, like a couple hours.
And the other one is also
Unless you're a
pretty good.
3-year-old. If you're like in elementary school, you only have to read Little Prince. You don't have to read the other one. If you are in high school,
if you're in elementary school
or
and your
above,
parents are letting you listen to us.
if you are in high school or above, you must read both books.
Now, if you're in elementary school, your parents wouldn't even know what you were listening to because you're on the internet and they have no clue.
You must also read the Wikipedia page about Antoine de Saint-Exupéry.
You might think, oh, he might be a cool guy. He wrote about cool stuff.
the
he's
coolest
way cooler
dude to ever live.
than you will ever imagine.
Cooler than Miles Davis.
Tomorrow, Thursday, December 8th, we will be at a nerd night in Brooklyn, in Dumbo, at a place called Galapagos, doing one 20-minute lecture entitled Losing Should Be Fun, which is the 20-minute version of the hour-long lecture we've run at, I believe, 2 Penny Arcade Expos and a bunch of other conventions.
All right.
If you want to go, I believe it costs $10, but there are 2 other lectures other than us, so you do have a reason to go, possibly.
Maybe it's worth paying for those other people. I think it's sold out, though, isn't it?
I heard it was sold out, but I don't know. Go to the website. I'll link to it.
Okay. January 5, 6, 7, 8
What?
is MagFest. Fucking go.
Oh my
or
God.
You suck.
We are doing Beyond Dungeons and Dragons, the reboot, and we're also going to be on 2 intellectual gamer discussion panels.
And we're going to play some fucking games.
If you want to play like Burning Wheel or Mouse Guard or Free Market or German board games with me, Scott, and a bunch of the FRC, this is pretty much your best shot because MagFest is one of the only cons that we go to primarily to hang out and play games.
The week after that, the 14th and 15th of January. I don't know if I'm going to be going, but there's another Nerd NYC double recess.
If I go, I'm going to run the same game for 4 people, Burning Wheel, that I ran at Burning Apocalypse Con.
Maybe I will also run that game or come up with a game.
You could run that game. I can give you my notes.
Maybe I'll come up with a game.
You should come up with a game.
I was thinking, here's my idea that I came up with for a game.
Oh, you got an idea?
It's just a seed of an idea. You ready? The idea is there's a really powerful bad guy, right?
Yeah.
And he's not dumb like in the movies. He just fucking kills you. And you gotta somehow not die and beat the bad guy. But he's not a dumb bad guy. He'll just fucking kill you. He won't even let you talk. He won't tell you his story. He's just a bad guy, and he's gonna do his bad thing, and he's awesome powerful.
So
You're also powerful as good guys, obviously. So that you're not just peasants and you just get disintegrated in
So
2
it's going to
seconds.
be Rezo casts the spell immediately.
Exactly. That's the game, is the Rezo game.
I think that was the moment when I went from I like Slayers to I fucking love Slayers. Rezo's like,
just
oh shit,
runs in the hallway up.
locks the door, summons the... Oh my God.
Well, the thing is, Rezo has nothing on...
Copy Rezo.
Spoiler, Ozymandias. Rezo's like, I'm doing it right now. Ozymandias is like, I did that shit before you came in the room.
Also, we'll be at PAX East. We'll be at, we should be at Anime Boston, even
You're
though it's
going
at the same time as PAX East.
And check us out on the internets and all the places on the internets besides iTunes or wherever you got this
Specifically,
episode from.
The Geeknights Rim YouTube account has many of our previous lectures up and a whole bunch of other stuff like Radio Free Equestrian, video from PAX.
Make sure to go to frontrowcrew.com, which I hope to have finished updating it to be newer and better before the end of the year because I'm going to have a vacation, and that could be shit talk. And also go to Facebook, Google+, Twitter, whichever place you like the most, we will go to that place. If you have any other places that you like the most, we'll go to those places too. Just tell me where they are.
So, Drops of God.
Oh shit, son!
Drops of God is one of those kind of manga that I'd be in like Hinokuni or something with Emily, and we'd be walking around, and I see all these manga that are not in English
that are about crazy things.
It's like, wow, that's about golf. That's about politicians. That's clearly some yakuza doing something awesome.
That's about wine.
So there's one that was. It looked like Initial D of wine.
Right, so I never read it, but then Vertical, the best manga publisher in the United States in English, they decided to publish Drops of God. And it's like, well, they could have published any of those. They could have published the golf one or the business one, but they chose this wine one, which means there must be something good about it. And I don't drink wine, but I read this, and just like every other shonen manga in the universe, it makes you want to do whatever it's about. Initial D makes you want to drive a car. Hajime no Ippo makes you want to punch people in the face and get punched in the face.
Oh my god, I remember when I was watching Initial D like second and third stage while I was living up in the mountains, and I actually had to drive down a mountain road every day to get to work. It wasn't necessarily good for me to have been doing those two things at the same time.
Yeah. Drops of God makes me want to drink wine, even though I'm probably not gonna.
You should. You gotta taste the terroir.
I think I'll be all right with my non-terroir.
I love how
But I wish people would make apple juice with so much, intensity as they make.
The shonen
the
fighting,
dirt that you plant the apple trees in. It's so important.
The shonen fighting genre has, there's many different like subgenres within it, but the overall genre, the shows that I found I like, are the ones where there's someone who's good at something but hates the thing they're good at, or doesn't care about the thing they're good at, but are forced to do it anyway and come to love it.
Yep.
But not right away.
It's pretty much the formula. It's also the same formula as Initial D in that he got good at it because his dad made him do all this stuff that he didn't like doing.
Son, I want you to lick this belt and chew on this pencil. And
yeah, somehow he can, you can implant amazing skills in your children even though they don't want these skills. And then they'll thank you for it later. When
so, Scott, when you have kids, you're going to be like, all right, kid, before you get dinner, you got to beat Mario 1. What's Mario 1?
That's pretty much it.
Here's the controller.
He's got to beat Contra before breakfast. He'll thank me for it when he's like StarCraft god of the world making mad monies for playing video games.
But this is such a, I read it and I like it, but at the same time, it's pandering to me so much, and it's doing it. And you know what?
That's
this goes all the way back to?
Mangas do. They pander.
All these things that we like Initial D and now Drops of God, Nodame, they all go back to C.S. Forrester, Horatio Hornblower. Because you read a Horatio Hornblower book.
Anytime Rim opens his mouth, it goes back to C.S. Forrester.
No, seriously, you read those books, right? And by the end of one, you're reading this action scene, you're like, oh shit, son, I want to go sailing.
You want to get flogged?
I know, nah, because
you want to get keel hauled.
He doesn't get keel hauled.
You want to get cannonballed?
Scott, you watch the Initial D race. You
want to marry 10 ladies with all sorts of BD?
I want to do that, and I could do it. I understand how that drift works. I know what's going on. You read the wine manga, and you're like, oh shit, I know all about the Toa and all about the all these Jaeger and all these guys. You read a C.S. Forrester book, and you feel like you know exactly what the deal is with sailing. You know, he furled the topsails or whatever, and it's awesome.
You don't know shit.
If you take anyone, have them read one of those scenes, and ask them how well they feel like they understood what happened, they'll be like 100%. Show them a picture of a ship, and ask them to point out any of the things named in the book, and they will get none of them.
That's right.
That is the real key. You have to get someone to feel like they understand this thing, even though they have no goddamn idea, and this is just crazy over-the-top bullshit that's happening.
But, in a way, it's the best marketing in the universe to get people interested in a thing. right? It just doesn't work when there's so many people using the same method. But I feel like there are many countries in the world where this method is not being used. And if we could perhaps, people here don't read manga, but if we could make TV shows with this formula about specific things, then we could get people really interested in things. So, for example, we could
read or die.
Right, we could maybe we want to sell wine, and we could make a TV show, an American one, of Drops of God, and suddenly wine sales would go through the roof because all these people watching that show would start buying crazy wine.
Actually, Drops of God would make a good HBO kind of show.
It would make a good just regular show.
Well, by HBO kind of show, I mean the shows that are made kind of to be sold, like to a premium channel. Like they're made as a unit. They're not an ongoing forever show. They have a plot that actually will end.
Right, but anyway, here's a short plot summary of Drops of God. You got this girl, and she's a sommelier in a small, kind of nice restaurant.
She's an apprentice sommelier.
That's right. And, she's pretty good at sommeliering, but you know what? She's a normal person, right? She's not perfect. She's not amazing. She doesn't have superpowers, right? And she's pretty cool. Like, I really like her a lot because it's like she's not like some of those anime characters that are intentionally extra clumsy. She's just normal clumsy. It's like, yeah, if I was an apprentice sommelier, I'd probably drop one at some point. I'd mess up at some point, but I wouldn't be messing up all over the place. She's pretty confident, and she's normal and not crazy or stupid or dramatic or anything. And then, so she's having trouble with the customer, and this dude helps with his decanting. And he has the amazing decanting of God, even though he doesn't drink wine. And she finds out that he is the son of this amazing wine critic, like the most famous wine critic that ever was.
Oh, wait, with the decanting, one of the most important aspects of the shonen fighting manga is the 2-page spread of the thing being done. It doesn't matter what that thing is, that 2-page spread is going to be amazing.
That's right. So there's a 2-page spread of his, decanting. So she finds out that he has these amazing wine skills, and he's the son of this guy, but he doesn't like wine or drink wine, and she actually resents his dad making him learn all that shit, just like Initial D. Then his dad dies, the famous wine critic dad. But before he died, he adopted this other guy, the rival, the evil, also wine critic guy, who was like the most, skilled wine critic there is, who was besides the dad who died. But the real son doesn't want that jerk to get the wine that his dad is letting him inherit. So he's got to beat him at this wine contest. In the wine contest, you have to identify the 12 disciples and the drops of God, and then you will win the wine inheritance.
Now, talk about your advertising.
So this guy doesn't like wine. He doesn't care about wine, but he has the innate skills from his dad, and he's got to, and he really, really suddenly doesn't want this other guy to get the wine collection. So he actually learns to like wine and
I have a prediction.
Tries to win.
I predict right now, I haven't read anything about the first big trade, so This is it's not a spoiler if I guess it.
That's right.
I think they're actually brothers.
It could be.
Straight up, they're actually brothers.
Possible. I wasn't even thinking of that. I was thinking of...
I thought of that as soon, I don't know, 40 pages in, I was like, they're clearly actually brothers.
Maybe, but my guess is that the drops of God, all the 12 disciples are going to be actual wines. I think the drops of God is going to be something like the grape juice, from that grows outside his house, or, regular ass grape juice, or his mom's breast milk, or something.
No.
Something like that. Something that's personal and isn't really the greatest wine in the whole world.
It's going to be Manischewitz.
It's going to be something, right? The drops of God is going to be something that has a personal meaning for that. It's not, it's not going to be, what's the guy's name? Henry Jaller, whatever.
Really? Jaller?
What was the name?
Anyway.
I forget the name. Henry something.
The
but it's not going to be some amazing wine that's really the drop of God. It's going to be something that's, story related.
I wonder, actually.
That's what I'm guessing. It's a guess. I've read one volume. What do you want from me?
Yeah, Wikipedia, apparently they've gotten through 8 of the apostles so far.
Oh, in the Japanese?
Yeah.
That's good. That means that it moved. How many volumes is that?
I have no idea, because I'm trying not to look.
It should say on that Wikipedia on the right.
Because it spoils a bunch of stuff.
Just on the right, in the little box, it just say a number of volumes.
28.
That's kind of That's a lot of volumes.
That is a lot of volumes.
28 volumes is only 8 disciples. There's
going to be a lot of subplots. I wonder, if only... I know this doesn't happen. If there were a crossover that linked to that Ghost in the Shell episode with Aramaki and the wine.
There should be a crossover with One Piece and they drink rum. Anyway, this manga is pretty awesome if you're willing to hold out for 28 plus volumes to find out what the disciples are and the drops of God.
If anything, a manga like this is something where you read the first volume just to prove to yourself that the shonen fighting genre, like the perfection of it, will work for anything.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of just satisfied reading the first volume. You don't find out any disciples, but like, even if you don't plan to read the whole thing, you don't think you can hold out, you should just read volume 1 and you stop right there, which you won't be suffering on a horrible cliffhanger or anything like that.
It's like watching not God of Cookery.
It's
but,
actually it's a pretty big volume from Vertical. I think it might actually be 2 Japanese volumes in one.
I think
US
it is.
volume.
But like Cooking
'cause
Master
it's
Boy,
thick.
I don't need to watch all of Cooking Master Boy, but I watched the
kinda
first couple
want to.
episodes. And I was good.
Oh man, I'm gonna get Chinese food for dinner.
Chinese food for dinner. I was gonna reheat the Indian food from the burning wheel
There's
last
left
night.
over?
There's a shit ton of it.
Oh, I thought there wasn't any.
No, there was like enough food to feed the entire gaming group again.
Oh, then I will stay here and eat some of that
All
shit.
right, I'll reheat that shit as soon as we're done with the show.
Which kinds are left?
All of them except one of them.
The peppery one that I had, or
I don't remember.
anyway?
So very briefly, then we'll do some kind of follow-up Geek Bites because when it comes to an anime movie,
There aren't many of them.
I'm loath to do a detailed review because you're just going to go watch it. I don't need to tell you much about it. So all I really want to do is convince you to watch it. Now, some movies I could see as doing a final thoughts or a kind of deep analysis. Like,
It's possible that there could be an anime movie that is so bad that will say, do not watch this under any circumstance. But that is so rare because, like, the worst anime movie that's going to come out.
Armageddon, Doom Megalopolis.
No, that's going to come out nowadays, right? Is going to be something like, you know, the One Piece, the movie number 55, or Pokemon, the movie number 150.
Actually, I'll
right?
bet those are pretty watchable.
Right, and those are probably pretty watchable. So, and that's the worst anime movie that's going to come out. Then you should pretty much, and there's only like 10 or so a year at most. You should pretty much just watch every Japanese anime, professional, full-length motion picture animated feature that comes out. Because they won't take you that long to watch them all. You know, their longest ones are going to be 2.5 hours, and most of them are going to be 90 minutes or less. And there are many of them. You can watch them all if you're an anime nerd.
Funnily, you're
Just
like,
do
yeah,
it.
most of them are going to be 90 minutes or less. Both the movies we're talking about are 2 hours plus.
All right, but I'm saying, you know, even 2 hours, oh, big 4 hours. That's less time than you spent watching Wolverine the X-Men, and it was better than that.
Yeah, but
Better than I assume that is.
But I guess what I was saying is that I could see us doing some shows down the road. Like I kind of want to rewatch Akira and or the original Ghost in the Shell just because I haven't seen him in forever.
I've seen them like 1,000 times.
But we could do like a kind of you've already seen it final thoughts episode and really talk about the movie. But for here, welcome to the Space Show, and I got to get the full title. I usually make a joke about the title to where I'd forgotten the real title. Children Who Chase Lost Voices from Deep Below.
That's the English title. I heard
Yes.
that was a mistranslation of the Japanese title.
Literally, it's Children Who Chase Stars.
Okay.
Hoshi o Kodomo.
Oh yeah, Hoshi is star.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, start with Welcome to the Space Show. It's goofy adventure in space.
Yeah, pretty much.
Really well animated. It's a gigantic,
the colors
super
are
long,
really stunning.
kind of like set pieces. There's a lot of atmosphere stuff. It's one of those really long, let's go on an adventure movies that's just really satisfying to watch.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have a whole lot of, like, you know, deep substance. You can see, you know, there's no surprise. You can see the twist coming from 1,000 light years away, literally.
Well, there's a couple of twists. The story of Welcome to the Space Show, roughly, is that on Earth, there's people, right?
There's some kids, and they go to a camp just like in Bokurano.
But
kind
in
of.
space, there's a gigantic Futurama-style space society, but they don't talk to people on Earth because people on Earth aren't good enough yet.
That's right.
And there's some plot where there's something on Earth that is very desirable out there that people are smuggling out, and some hijinks ensue. And these
Pretty
kids,
much space drugs grow on Earth, and you can't find them anywhere else in the universe.
So these kids end up saving one of the investigators who's working on this, and he's like, "All right, I'll take you up to the moon as thanks, and they'll send you back down to Earth." And then shit goes down, and 2 hours later, you've watched a pretty solid, fulfilling movie about space.
Yeah, it's like they get to the moon, and you know, there's like, then suddenly they're stuck there, and then adventure happens.
It's kind of there's a lot of like adventuresome slice of life.
Adventure, we say
they
adventure
run
like
out of
1,000
money,
times.
so they all start getting jobs as like delivery people and such to save up their space dollars to buy the ticket home.
Yeah, it's like the actual plot of the movie is pretty much straightforward. It does the typical thing of meet a bunch of characters who then at the end, all the characters you met along the way come together at the last minute to
They're
save
all
the
pretty
day.
great characters. Like
they're pretty cool.
it's very similar.
But they're not deep characters. They're just like, they're more like, just aspects. Like, oh man, that guy's got, does this really cool thing, and that's what he does.
It reminds me a lot in terms
They're
of
almost
feel,
like Mega Man bosses.
as a lot of those kind of like the old space shows we like. But those often have meaning or something. Like Cats on a Train.
Those were...
Now here's why it reminds me of Cats on a Train. Because Cats on a Train, aka Night on the Galactic Railroad, was long and atmospheric. And you watch it, and it's just kind of like this long adventure. It lulls you in. You kind of forget about the outside world for a couple hours. And then it kind of lets you back out at the end. It also reminds me of that because a lot of people will not have enough goddamn patience to watch this movie. A lot of people I know did not have enough goddamn patience to watch this movie. And if you don't have the patience to watch this, then I actually think a lot of anime movies are not up your alley.
A lot of things, period, are not up your alley.
I mean, Skycrawlers, that's very long, very slow, very repetitive, on
People,
purpose.
you gotta have real attention spans to appreciate the arts.
But here's the other reason why this show is great. There is a space show, because as a backdrop to all this adventure these kids are having, there is a pirate television show in space called The Space Show. It is the most popular media in the entire collected universe.
Yep.
It is illegal and broadcast from some mystery place, and it is just crazy, crazy. Like, it is basically condensed Redline. So, the space show and these kids and everything all collides into a gigantic, epic conclusion with extremely lush, beautiful, colorful animation, great kids, great colors, Pyongkichi.
Basically, the fun of it is not that big plot, right? The fun is basically exploring this space society that they've come up
like
with.
seeing weird stuff like the currency, the food, the nationalities.
It's like all these kids get jobs on the moon, and you get to just, throughout these 2.5 hours, you just keep seeing little slices of different aspects of this gigantic space society to see how this, how things work out there. And it's just this cool world that you're being exposed to, just like the kids are being exposed to it after being taken from Earth and thrown into a galactic, civilization.
And there's a ton of great set pieces. Like, they ride this kind of biological spaceship at one point where all the doors inside of it are basically sphincters.
Yeah, there's just a lot, there's all kinds of crazy aliens.
I think my favorite part is when they all have to get space passports.
Oh, yeah, and the thing, questions
Yeah, they
them
all get
out.
interviewed. It basically asks them questions like, if a race of benevolent aliens came down to your planet and offered you all the technology in the universe to make your lives awesome, would you accept it? If you answer correctly, you get a space passport. If you answer incorrectly, I guess we lock you up forever.
Yep.
And it's fun. I'm really trying to avoid saying much more about it because you just fucking watch it.
Yeah, it's only 2.5 hours.
You can just pirate
whatever.
it. It's just that. It's just on the internet. You can just watch it.
Yep. Make sure you got the HDs, though, or else you'll be missing a lot.
Yeah, watch this on a big screen.
Well, it doesn't need to be big. It just needs to be HD.
Real screen.
Yeah.
So, Children Who Chase Lost Voices from Deep Below is the most recent Makoto Shinkai effort. And we watched it at the New York Comic Con at a premiere, and then we got to see him, and he talked a lot about it. He seems like a really chill guy.
Yeah.
I liked his answers to all the questions.
I
about
like
his...
it when the people are common sense guys and not crazy people or, weird artsy, fartsy, what's it called?
So
the,
if you
the funny hats.
If you know anything about
Beret wearing people.
Makoto Shinkai, you could guess that this movie is about lovers separated by space and time.
Oh, no.
In this case, it's the story of lovers separated by death.
Yep. He's just like, well, I've separated you by space and time. Now I'm just going to separate you, period.
But at the same time, this is a pretty straightforward Miyazaki-esque fantasy adventure story.
Yeah, so pretty much there's this girl, and she likes to, make a little radio, sort of like Carl Sagan's Contact, right? And she goes up on the mountain near behind her house in the woods, like adventuring in the woods a little bit. And she, she listens to the thing on, and she keeps hearing this thing on her radio.
This music from somewhere.
From somewhere.
It's not a radio station. Like, it's something she can't explain it, and it makes her happy. So she goes and listens to this all the time.
And then one day she sees this dude up on the mountain and is like, oh, what's up with that dude? And then suddenly you've sort of got this ET situation where the dude is mystical and the government's after him and something. You're not quite sure. So she's in this ET situation. And then the dude gets owned by some monster. And she gets to
I believe he also may have owned the monster.
It was a double ownage. Double KO. So she sort of fell in love with the dude, this weird mystical, plot dude from another world. But now he's dead. So she's sort of like,
That's the best summary of a movie ever.
Yep.
All right.
And then she goes on the adventure into the other world because she thinks there's a chance to see him again.
It is really interesting watching this because it cribs so heavily from Ghibli that I could see if someone didn't know who made this movie.
But you can tell by the way it looks that it's not.
But at the same time, it's so close. Like, the character designs are echoes of Ghibli stuff. The whole world, the way that world that they travel to is portrayed, and the kind of the metaphysics of it and the mythology of it is very Ghibli. It's a very straightforward movie with a very kind of almost heavy-handed moral at the end.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, the movie did surprise me more than once. Like, it a few times I kind of got lulled into the sense of, all right, I see where this is going. And then it didn't do a 180, but it went 45 degrees off course.
Yeah. It's like, you go in and it's like, there are many different aspects that are very Ghibli. Like the animal guardians are very Mononoke-ish.
Yeah.
And the other world is very Laputa-ish.
There's a lot of Nausicaa in the other world.
Right,
and
the girl is sort of like Nausicaa, She's got her technologies.
And you can feel almost like Makoto Shinkai was like, I gotta have some of this, and some of this, and some of this, and some of this. I want all these things.
They meet the doctor guy.
He's like checking off all the things he wants in his
town.
fantasy world adventure.
Yep.
It's beautiful to behold. The animation and the characters and the colors are just breathtaking. And the story's pretty good. It's not great. It's not the best movie I've ever seen, but you know what? It's a solid movie.
Yeah, and I was kind of expecting as it went along that just amazing shit would happen, but it wasn't. But at the same time, I was actually kind of thankful that it wasn't sort of all existential and weird. Like it was very straightforward. It was like, this is the thing that happens, and it happened, and you're good.
Yep. The actual end of the plot didn't go the way I expected at all.
No, not at all.
Again, we're being cagey here because you should watch this movie. I don't want to spoil it for you. There's no reason to. You should just see it. Nothing I say should convince you to see it. You should just go see it. Otherwise, why are you listening to the anime, manga, comics
You've
episode
probably
of Geeknights?
wasted more time listening to Geeknights that you could have spent watching this movie. Seriously, what the fuck?
This has been Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music, Kat Lee for web design, and Brando K for the logos.
Be sure to visit our website at frontrowcrew.com for show notes, discussion, news, and more.
Remember, Geeknights is not one, but 4 different shows. Sci-Tech Mondays, Gaming Tuesdays, Anime Comic Wednesdays, and Indiscriminate Thursdays.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.